enjoy the moment. Enjoy what God's giving you. This is not a mistake.
It's not a mistake.
It's not a mistake.
On this episode of True Transitions, former collegiate athlete and the father of Super Bowl champ Odell Beckham Jr. tells us about the importance of establishing purpose and overcoming obstacles. Through each transition, Pops breaks down the truth behind how he was determined to become the successful entrepreneur and the family man that he is today.
Mr. Beckham, thank you for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Call me Pops.
Pops. All right, Pops.
I'm Pops to everybody, but not everybody.
Is that what you want? Okay.
But Pops would be good. Pops would be good.
No, that's fair. So tell me about life right now. Let's start there.
Well, born in Temple, Texas. Raised in Temple / Marshall. I went back and forth. 8th grade is when I took that transition from my mom and went and lived with my dad.
Making that transition from always being with your mother, then moving with your dad, was that hard mentally, or how did they take it?
Dad teaches you one thing, mom teaches you another. But I learned from the both of them, and it wasn't a big difference going from mom to dad. It was pretty much the same thing, because they required the same thing, which was doing the right thing.
Was your dad big on sports?
He was more into the piano and the gospel, and he had his own gospel show, played the piano for the church, had me in church. And so, but he liked the Dallas Cowboys, but he really liked baseball. The Texas Rangers was his team, and we'd travel from Marshall to Dallas and watch the Rangers and get the free gifts.
Would you say that that point in time was when your love for sports started to come about?
Well, I started sports at the boys club.
Okay.
The Boys and Girls Club. And that's where I was introduced to basketball, then football. And it all started at the Boys and Girls Club.
Did you just play every single sport? Like, did you dabble in each sport, or how did you know which one was going to be the sport?
Well, I played everything. I wanted to play everything. I was an athlete, so I played basketball, played football. I ran the 110 high hurdles.
Okay, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ran the 110, 3-stepping.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. That takes talent.
Yeah. And,
have you ever fallen?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've hit a hurdle, I've hit a
have
hurdle
you
and
fallen?
failed.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I always tell everybody,
Especially,
you're not a real hurdle until you hit a
right.
hurdle and fall.
Especially when they raised them up.
Yep.
And I think that was like 86,
something like
87. They raised them up higher, which is when I stopped running. Yeah. And
was it too high, or was it just
they were just too high.
Okay.
They were just too high. I was a little on the heavy side, so I was about 185 pounds. So, but I got hurt playing basketball.
Okay.
Which made me stop playing everything. Like, I didn't play anything else. I got hurt playing basketball, torn cartilage. And I was like, if I could rush for 1,000 yards, get hit, at 20 miles an hour and not get hurt, and then playing basketball on a small surface, get hurt, I'm just gonna play football.
He's looking for Beckham. Now he has it. It's a touchdown.
Walk us through your most favorite memory of football at Marshall.
Man, it was a lot of them, but I want to say my senior year we had probably the best team to come through Marshall in a long time, because at that time Marshall hadn't beat Longview in, I want to say, like 28 years. And we beat them that year, I want to say, no, it was 23 years Marshall hadn't beat Longview. And we beat them 28-0 my senior year.
That was the most memorable moment.
Yeah.
Was that the moment when you knew you wanted to go on and play at LSU, or did you always have dreams of playing in college?
I actually wanted to go to A&M.
Okay.
My whole life. And Larry Horton, DB, ended up taking me to the movies. Wasn't a single soul in the movies on my recruiting trip to Texas A&M. And after that happened, I was like, I'm definitely not going to Texas A&M, man. But anyway, the best recruiting trip that I had was probably Oklahoma State. And I didn't go to Oklahoma State either. So LSU just was not far away from home, but far enough. And UT was too close, because I went to the University of Texas on a visit as well, but just too close to where someone could drive 45 minutes from my hometown, which was Temple, to Austin and just knock on my door. So you had to at least drive 5 to 7 hours if you wanted to see
So you were
me.
trying to get away from everybody.
I was just trying to get away, but not too far away, but so that I could become something, so I can become a man. And that happened. It happened very quickly. But I wanted to get away far enough so that I could become who I was supposed to become, and the man that I was supposed to become. I know my dad, because back in '89, you had the SAT and the ACT. I couldn't make the required scores to save my life. Couldn't make the required scores to save my life. And people are looking at me like, man, this boy can't pass the ACT or the SAT.
That's a lot of pressure.
But his grade point average is B+, okay? But he can't pass the ACT. So some colleges, they didn't even recruit me any longer. Matter of fact, Nebraska. I wanted to go to Nebraska because they ran the ball. And I think it was Tom Osborne was the head coach at the time. My head coach, Dennis Parker, called Tom Osborne and said, well, what's going on, Tom? He said, well, we want him if he makes the ACT scores or the SAT. But if he doesn't, then we're going to have to pass. And guess what my coach told him? Piss on you, Tom. We got a scholarship all over the world. We ain't going to worry about you. Thank you. And he hung up on him. And I'm like, Coach, I still got a scholarship, but I couldn't play a practice for a whole entire year. Couldn't play a practice for an whole entire year. The only thing I could do was go to school. I had to work out on my own, but I still had a scholarship. Guess what? Out of all the freshmen in that class, I got my first academic award ever. It was the Scholastic Improvement Award. It goes to the freshman with the highest GPA. I had like a 3.1.
Okay. Congratulations. That's a big
And
deal.
so that was very refreshing, because I was actually the only Prop 48. It was Proposition 48 at the time, which they did away with it, I want to say a year or two after me. But I was all by myself, man. I didn't even feel a part of the team. And then when we had our little team dinner / award ceremony, that's when I got my first academic award ever, because I'd missed honor roll by one point in this class, didn't bring that up. miss it in another class, and but there was one point where I was like, man, am I gonna go to college? And then my dad, back to him, he was like, boy, you ain't even gonna go to college. You can't even pass the test. You won't even get a scholarship. You ain't gonna graduate. Just like that. And so that was motivation, because he was really trying to motivate me, not directly, but indirectly. And so that's one of the things that I learned from him as well. Not to talk at you, but talk to you.
It sounds like, one, that sounds like it's a hard time, because when you know you have a vision and you want to get to that vision, but nobody else around you actually believes in you, except for that one person, which was your coach, it sounds like, and your dad, of course. How did you get through that period? That sounds like a heavy period for a high school student, because your dad saying what he said to you indirectly, you don't know that he was really motivating
Right.
you at the time.
Not at the time.
At the time, you don't know
No.
that. So in your head, it could have been, everybody doesn't like me, or everybody doesn't want to see me succeed. So how did you switch that into motivation? What was going on in your head?
It still came back to just wanting to be something, because I saw a bunch of my friends become something other than what they should have been. Meaning either whether it was a drug dealer or they got killed, they had an accident because they were drunk, whatever the case may be. I didn't want to be that statistic, but I wanted to just prove to my mom and dad that I can be somebody. I am going to be somebody, whether it was the scholarship that I received or the Army, Navy, which I probably couldn't have got in the Navy, but more than likely the Army. That was probably the easiest, because I wasn't a real studious person. I did enough to get by. And that's what I don't allow my children to do, is to just get by.
Would you call that a major transition phase in your life?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Beckham all the way down to the 15-yard line.
Beckham wants to get it outside, has a wall again. Beckham!
So after you overcame that, you obviously got on the team freshman year.
After that, yeah.
What was that like? You went through
I was
storm.
actually a sophomore after that, because I was a freshman the year that I lost. So I only had 3 years to play. So there again, I've lost a year, and so that kind of hurt me, in the long run, because I only had 3 years to play. And so I immediately started playing right after, and there was high hopes for Beckham. And then, boom, coach's transition. Coach gets fired, bring in another coach. That coach wants to play those guys that he recruited. So you're hanging on by a nail. And so I managed to play, I managed to start. My senior year, I got moved from starting tailback to starting fullback.
Okay, that's a big difference.
The reasoning was because the starting fullback got hurt. He was about 6'3", 240, 230, something like that. And they just wanted to try me at fullback, because the backup fullbacks couldn't block their way out of a wet paper bag, obviously. And so they put me there, and they were like, God dang, that's it. Line up, let's do it again, And so I ended up being called the total package, which means he could run, block, and catch.
Let's talk about the work that you had to put in to become the total package, because we all know you didn't just show up on the field, switch positions, and next thing you know, you were good. There was times you had to spend in the weight room, you had to be mentally prepared. What was the whole process like to get to be that total package?
Well, number one, I could already run, I could already catch. I had to learn how to block and be aggressive blocking because I was blocking guys 6'2", 6'3", 6'4",
And you were how? Ooh,
and I was
what were you?
only 5'10".
Okay.
200 pounds. They were 6'5", 270, 280. But I think that was the hard part of that transition. And then when I learned it, I was unstoppable. There was no way that you're coming in here and getting in this backfield. And that's the mentality that I took. And that's how I became the total package, because I learned how to block. And I took pride in it. But I was a true tailback.
Okay.
But that helped me. That helped me grow into really who I am right now, because I didn't get to that next level. I didn't make it to the next level. And it's all probably because my whole status changed, as well as the coaching changed, right? So I still managed to play, still graduated, got my degree.